Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. I met today's guest about 6 years ago when I was speaking at the Chicago Veg Fest, and she was gracious and asked me to stay with her so I didn't have to stay in a hotel. And she made the most delicious food for me during that weekend, so I didn't have to eat the food at the Veg Fest, because if you're a healthy plant-based eater, you know there's nothing to eat at a Veg Fest. She is going to be sharing with you her incredible story of healing, as well as making a recipe, dry steam kale, which is a method I've never heard of, so I'm looking forward to seeing it. Her name is Julie Marie, and she is the creator of the Protective Diet. Please welcome her to the show. You look great, and it's great to see you again after all these years.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to bring you this recipe and this method, and I think it will be something you'll really like. I'm going to give you a few other things as well as it's a dry steam reheat process in the Instant Pot. Some tips that I know that you're following would appreciate, because I know you guys have your love affair of the Instant Pot, and some other great ideas too. And recipes. But first I wanted to show you, first I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a background of where I'm coming from and why I should be sharing my recipes. And Protective Diet Education is the program we started after I eliminated my morbid obesity, as you can see there, and with a whole food plant-based diet that I call a protective diet, and I started teaching. But I'm going to back up and give you a little demonstration, AJ, because I thought it would be fun, because you're fun, and I know your viewers are fun, and I want to be relatable, because when I meet people at a party, they say, oh, you're just naturally thin. That's why you can eat all those carbs and that kind of thing. So I want you guys to understand where I'm coming from. I was in a size 22 in my 20s, and I stayed there for quite some time into my 30s. And then I adopted a vegan diet, and I slimmed down, and it was fantastic, into normal sizes, that I could go to normal stores and buy pants in a 12, 14. And then I cleaned up my vegan diet, and I did that diet, you know, that you cut out all the carbs and you eat a lot of veggies, and I slimmed down even more into, I can't even get these things out, into a size 8. And I was feeling great. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a miracle. I found my way. But I couldn't sustain it. I love potatoes. I love pasta. I love rice. I loved bread. And so I was constantly struggling, doing, you know, the 7 spin classes a week, playing the game. I always said I was one veggie burger away from that. And so then I cut out all the oils, and I cut out the nuts. And I met Jerry in this size 8, my husband, at a vegan event, and it was fantastic. I thought I was in good shape. But then when I cut out all of the high ticket items in the grocery store, I call them the oils and the nuts and the sugar bombs, I slimmed down into a size 6. And I was teaching a protective diet. I was teaching workshops how to do it, because everyone saw me slimming down and they're like, I want that. I want the same thing you're doing. So we started doing workshops. We started doing cooking videos. We started live broadcasts before that technology was available, where we're using, oh gosh, it was crazy. But anyway, we started that. We started Protective Diet Education. And I moved to San Diego then after we had that going for a while, and Jerry and I left our jobs, and we were doing this full time, and it was so exciting. And then I was here in San Diego 7 months, loving the life of California, coming from Chicago, and I had a really bad headache, and I went to the emergency room, and I was diagnosed with brain cancer. So then, fortunately, the brain cancer, well, it was then diagnosed as fast growing, and I decided to keep it because I knew all about angiogenesis inhibitors. I knew all about cancer regression. And when you looked at my tumor on the MRI, it was regressed and encapsulated away from my brain. And my diet was doing it for me. I had been eating this way for a long time at this point, and I was doing everything right. I came home from the hospital. I refused to have the craniotomy, to have the tumor removed. I refused the radiation. I refused the chemotherapy. I knew my diet was way more cancer protective than, way more chemotherapeutic than anything they could give me. And I didn't want to go with the flow because it said I had 5 years to live, which that's this March, will be 5 years. And I'm feeling great. I'm fine. I have no brain cancer. Cut the story short, I didn't want to take the normal path of medical treatments because it was killing people in 5 years with my diagnosis. And I knew better. And so I walked my whole classroom, all of our community through this experience in protective diet education. Fortunately, I came out way ahead. But during that time, the day I came home from the hospital from the biopsy, I said, forget about it. I am not going to drink any alcohol because I was drinking wine and I was in California. So I was drinking wine. So I gave up the wine and I slimmed down from the size 6 to a size 4. And then I had to have I did have the tumor removed after 7 months of a lot of vertigo, a lot of headaches, but I didn't get any of the treatments. I got a dog instead and life got better. It was a long process, but then what did I do? Oh, I stopped the snacks. So 3 big meals a day. Stop snacking, Julie. I was constantly grazing, eating bananas or whatever. And then I slimmed down to a 4. And then I thought I was there. I thought I was done. I thought, this is crazy. Oh no, wait, that was a 4. These are a 2. I can't even keep them straight. So then I slimmed down from the size 2 to a 0, which I can't even believe that. How is that even possible? Like, how is this possible? You know, it didn't make any sense because I was eating so well. But I started day fasting after becoming totally addicted to opioids after a couple years of brain surgeries. My brain surgery had complications and I ended up totally hooked on narcotics. And that caused me to overconsume. Food lost all its appeal, everything lost I was listless. And during that time, I would just eat and eat and eat and eat and not get any food satisfaction. And then, so I started day fasting and that gave me back my food excitement. And that's why I got into day fasting and it took off. I kept it a secret for 7 months. And then it took off into all of these other benefits I found out. I researched the science behind it. I was doing it to try and improve my food satisfaction. And it turned into, oh my gosh, it was, promoted autophagy and cellular recycling, and it was cancer protective and all these reasons to reinforce continuing it. So I did. So that's what's going on. So yay me, I'm in disguise and I can't even believe it. And I feel great. And that's that. But I want to get to cooking because I know that's what you want from me today. But I wanted to share a little bit.
What is day fasting? Does that mean you just fast in the daytime?
Yes, I eat 1 meal a day at sundown. One very large meal, which is what I like. And then I go to bed. So that's it. That's how it works. It's that simple. I don't have anything during the day, but we have a day fast and feast guide in our program and a series of classes to guide people through it. And it's been incredibly effective for people that want to maximize their weight loss, get to their goal faster, or just tweak off that last, they want to be in a 0 if that's their goal. But a lot of people are doing it more for the cellular recycling, the improvements in cognition. And this is what I was really interested in when I found out about it, because my mom's suffering from dementia and I'm learning about this, and I don't ever want to experience this because it's a horrible experience on this end of it. And also after my brain surgeries, and Jerry had a brain injury, and when we saw all the cognitive benefits, we were like, this is unbelievable. So, and anti-aging and human growth hormone promoting, it promotes that naturally. So our muscle retention, the muscles just exploded when I started day fasting. I couldn't believe it, my strength and everything. And you would think that you'd need to eat in order to get the energy to exercise. We do a very long dog hike in the morning, but we do mostly strength training, 20 minutes once a week. And that's all it takes to develop those muscles. It was pretty incredible. So, you ready for me to do the cooking demo?
Absolutely. I've never,
Okay.
I never heard of day fasting or dry steaming. So learning 2 new things today.
That's one thing with my job with protective diet education is to do research, and mostly I'm looking at pharmaceutical studies, which sounds weird because I don't take any medication. I live holistically, and I read pharmaceutical studies, and then I take back whatever plant extract they're using and incorporate it into my workplace for wellness, which is what I call my kitchen. And I apply it into a recipe or a cooking technique or a new method of cooking it that's going to make it even more protective. A protective diet is protection for humans, animals, and our planet. That's my goal, but mostly to get people excited and incorporating these magical ingredients and ways of cooking them and using them to heal our bodies without people even knowing. They just follow the recipes, and that's their guide. I put in the notes section the studies that I'm getting this information from, or what is happening eating the foods that I'm recommending. But okay, so the dry steamed kale technique, that's just something I came up with because I wanted to cook kale in a way. I should probably get the kale. That would be helpful, right? Okay. I wanted to cook kale in a way that would not create all that. I know you like to drink the pot liquor, and I don't. So I lose a lot of nutrition into the bottom of the pot from cooking kale because I can't get that down. I'm not as good as you, AJ.
It's funny. I'm actually drinking my pot liquor right now.
You are. I drink a lot of different really healthy herbal beverages, but I can't get the veggie beverage down. So I came up with this, and this is just how I store my kale. This is 3 bunches of kale. So when I get it home from the grocery store, I strip it, I put it in the salad spinner, and then I lay it out on a big towel on the countertop. And then after a few hours or by the end of the day, I put it in a Ziploc baggie, and it's really, you can stuff a lot in here, and you just kind of lay on it. And then you can get it to close. And I can fit like massive bunches of kale in my refrigerator this way. I found this is the best way to store it, and it will keep all week long. So for the dry steamed kale, I love this dark green kale. It's my favorite because it looks so good when I put different bright colored vegetables next to it. So I'm just going to give it a light chop. You don't have to cut it at all if you want to leave it whole. And when we chop kale, it's a good idea, if you have the time, to chop it about 40 minutes before you cook it to mix the enzymes that myrosinase and glucoraphanin. And when kale is torn by a predator in the wild, these two are mixed and it gives off sulforaphane, sulfur. It's a plant chemical that turns off bugs that bite the plant, and that's how it defends itself. And that protection that it's giving off for it to protect itself from predators eating it does the same thing inside our body. It protects us cellularly. So that's why we want to chop it. But I don't always have time to pre-chop my kale, so I found a workaround. And there is a workaround. First, I'm going to put this in here, and I'm going to tell you the workaround. because I'm all about shortcuts. I want great food with minimal effort. So into the Instant Pot, you can either use a rack that we all get with our Instant Pot, but I know you guys are Instant Pot groupies and you probably have this steamer basket. If you don't, AJ, you gotta get one of these.
I do. I love it. I use it for
I love
everything.
It's the best because you can get everything out easy. So if you have that, do you have an overhead camera? We're not using it. So let's get the overhead camera going so that people can really see this. So first thing I'm doing, it's quite the simple process, is I'm putting a cup of water into the bottom of my pot. And then I'm putting my bowl into my basket. Any bowl will work that you can, that's oven safe or microwave safe. You could use like a souffle dish. You could use a glass container like this without the lid. Anything that you can fit in there. Pyrex. Very important. You can fill this as full as you want. You could use this inside the basket. Everyone's got one of these Pyrex measuring cups, I'm sure. And then, so you're putting it in there, cup of water, that's it. Leave it uncovered because now it's going to steam. 1 minute on steam. Pressure cook. Put it on the steam button. A lot of people don't use that button. And I'm turning off the keep warm, if that's a function on your Instant Pot, closing my valve, of course. And then let it steam for 1 minute. I quick release it because I like my kale to have a lot of life. But you could leave it. If you leave it, you're gonna lose the greenness of your kale. And I love that beautiful green color. So I quick release it. So then the next thing I'd like to show you is, I'm gonna show you how I use this, but I'm going to, let's see. Let me see where I am. So I have leftovers. So I use this steam reheat technique. I'm going to show you how to set them up. This is very hot and I have chef fingers, but I'm going to go for it. So in here, I have my Thanksgiving rice pilaf. Do you have the overhead, Jerry? They can see this, how this is in here. I have 2 servings so that both Jerry and I can have this. We day fast, so we're heating everything up, and I think we're gonna have to bring it over to the neighbors because we have plenty of leftovers. But so in here I have, okay, you can have the cup of water on the bottom and I have 2 racks. Let's have the regular shot. See how I have 2 racks balanced like that? It's over the cup of water. I'm gonna move this out of the way. These are very hot, so you might want to use like these kind of little hot mitts are really good for picking things up if you don't have something like that. Or they make these little tools so you can pick up hot rolls. And so I have 2 racks. So because there's always 2 of us eating, but you could heat them up one after the other in here too, because I heat these up for 5 minutes on steam with 1 cup of water in the bottom, no lid on the top, because this technique, I want to reheat something like rice or mashed potatoes, something I don't want to get more dried out either on the stovetop or in the microwave. And I love the idea of I'm not a big fan of the microwave because I think we lose our connection to the food. I used to, back when I eat veggie burgers, I'd heat up a veggie burger in the microwave and I'd eat it without the bun when I was on the no carb kick that did not work out. And I would eat the veggie burger and I would say, who ate my veggie burger? Where did it even go? Because it was like such a fast process. I didn't connect with my food at all. I didn't smell it cooking. And this way we have 5 minutes of it steaming. We smell it cooking when you can either naturally release or quick release. And we have rice pilaf. And I'm going to show you how to make this into something more exciting now because Thanksgiving's over. And if you want to put the overhead on, a small overhead maybe, and then just to show them what this rice pilaf looks like, This is a Thanksgiving version with roasted corn, roasted cranberries and pomegranates and parsley and broth mix. Oh, that's the other thing we've been up to, AJ, that I didn't tell you about. I don't know if you've heard about it, but we came out with a product to eliminate all those boxes of broth. And we're officially sold out of it due to COVID. Oh, we're on the overhead. Plant-based broth mix. And we made this to produce a better broth that's oil-free than all of the box broths, one that tastes amazing, and one that eliminates all the boxes of broth, the waste, the package waste. And this is 12 boxes of broth in this one can, or one jar. And it's, our community calls it gold dust. But right now we're sold out due to COVID restrictions, that we can't get the ingredients for it, and we can't get it co-packed just yet because they're like half-staffed, unfortunately. So it's on the way, but it's on Amazon if anyone's interested in it. Protective Diet plant-based broth mix. It's amazing, and it's my little baby that I had and created during my brain cancer experience. That was another thing I wanted to mention. Going the way that I went with my cancer, I was able to work through it. I wasn't sick from chemotherapy and radiation, but this is a choice I was able to make because I got ahead of it, and I was already practicing a protective diet, a whole food plant-based diet. My body was already in the process of healing. It wasn't like I came home from my biopsy and I had to figure out how to heal my body with food. I made the same dinner that I made the day before I left for the hospital. So I always try to get people to get on board with this before they're faced with a crossroads, because when I get an email from someone that wants to adopt a protective diet and they're in diagnosis of something that's deemed terminal, it's a horrible, overwhelming time to be learning a whole new diet and lifestyle. It can be done, and I've seen it done, and I've seen it heal the body, but I want everyone to do it now, today, for their protection. Okay, so with this, so normally I make egg rolls. On a protective diet, we love egg rolls, but I'm gonna make these into egg roll bowls because I'm lazy. I'm very lazy. A lot of times people think I'm always cooking up like this super storm of things, and I'm lazy more often than not. I shouldn't say lazy. I like the quickie recipes that give me all the taste without all of the work. So typically on an egg roll, we have like ginger and garlic and things like that when I make an egg roll bowl, but this is a quickie version. So I'm going to use my microplane, and you could add this to the kale because I'm going to put the kale on top of that. That's going to be like our cruciferous filling on our egg roll. So my ginger, I keep in the freezer. This is just a little tip. Turmeric root, ginger root. This is the season for these. So,
Would you like the big picture of the rice pilaf yet?
oh, hold on. This is my turmeric root and my ginger root. This is how I store it. And I buy it in the fall. Right now, they're both in season. So you can get them in organics, and you can get them mail order if you live in a small area that you don't have gourmet grocery stores or unusual things like turmeric root. But, and then I keep a couple pieces in a little container in the door of my freezer. So it's handy. But I'm just going to grate a little bit of ginger on top of this, just a little because it's raw. And if you have a sharp microplane, you don't have to peel your ginger. You just wash it, let it dry, and freeze it. And then you never run out of ginger because it's always in your freezer door and handy. Because I buy it once a year when it's in season and it's on sale and it's organic. And you could grate that into your kale if you wanted to too. And then
Rice pilaf picture?
this is on. Oh, yes, you can show them actually. Oh, I didn't realize you had a picture of the rice pilaf so they could see what the base of this looks like. So that's the Thanksgiving rice pilaf. And then you can switch to the egg roll bowl. So this is what we're creating now, is the egg roll bowl. So on top of the egg roll bowl, which we're gonna put the kale, is sugar-free sweet and sour duck sauce and hot mustard. And I'm gonna show you how to make some hot Chinese mustard, and there's a reason behind this. Because mustard adds back the myrosinase, that enzyme that when we cook the kale, it no longer produces. So unless we chopped it 40 minutes in advance, I don't have that kind of time. So if I add some this is turmeric actually. If I add some hot Chinese mustard to the top of my egg roll bowl with my sweet and sour duck sauce, the mustard is going to add back that enzyme needed to produce the sulforaphane. And I'm going to show you how to make hot Chinese mustard. What's up?
Oh, no.
Okay. Anyway, so for hot Chinese mustard to work, we have to get some ice water, very cold water. Put ice in a little bowl of water. Maybe you want to do an overhead. Can you do a partial overhead?
Maybe.
Okay. And I put this is my ice water here, and in a separate dish, I'm putting
No,
2 teaspoons. I should use the actual teaspoon. This one is Oriental Hot Mustard. It's powdered mustard. You could use Coleman's or your typical powdered mustard. It's not going to be as spicy as this, but it'll have some heat, little excitement for your bowl. And we're adding 2 teaspoons of the mustard powder and a 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric, just for protection and color. And some of these hot mustard powders that you find at your Asian market, like this one, S&B, it contains some turmeric already. So that's a typical thing in Chinese hot mustard. And then 2 tablespoons of very cold water. And the reason why we're using very cold ice water is that kicks in the enzyme in mustard that will make it really, really hot. So if you don't like your food really spicy, don't use cold water. But we use the cold water because we're going to then use less of the mustard sauce. We love exciting food. After going through the bout I did with my addiction after the brain surgeries, I had to figure out every possible way to get my neurotransmitters producing excitement about food again. Otherwise, I was just shoveling in the food, looking for something exciting, and nothing exciting was happening. So I just kept eating, and that was not appealing to me at all.
Overhead and back up.
Oh, that's what fell. Okay, thank you. So then this is done, and we're gonna quick release. I have one of these little gadgets.
That's good.
Do you have one like this, AJ?
I love it. You mean like the diverter?
Yeah, diverter.
Yep, I love it.
I love it too, but I'm always like right in the way of it, right? I don't want to do it at you. So you see how quick that was to cook the kale. And this part, I always want to encourage everyone to, oh, I should have put this in here. I wanted to reheat my Thanksgiving leftovers because I know you were interested in what we had for Thanksgiving and what I was going to do with the leftovers. So I took, you want to go through these pictures?
Sure.
So I made what I call a hungry man dinner. Oh, I was supposed to do the desserts first. But first I'm gonna, oh no, we're not going through that. Sorry, dude. Never mind. First I'm gonna put my hungry man dinner I'll tell you what's in here in a second. This is the Thanksgiving dinner. I'm going to put that in here. It's got all the components of our Thanksgiving dinner. And I'm going to use that steam reheat process, and I'm going to show you how that works. You can see up close. Oh, I'm going to turn this one upside down. You'll figure this out. If you have 2 racks, there's all different gadgets you can use to balance in here. But usually I just do 1 pot. But when it comes to gravy and mashed potatoes, I like to separate them. That's how I did it. No, I didn't. No. I don't. No.
Yeah. You know?
Oh, this way. This is it. This is it. Sorry. Thanks, Jerry. Okay, so mushroom gravy on top, and I'm going to switch these out. And out comes my kale. And in goes my Hungry Man Thanksgiving dinner. I call it that because Jerry's going to have it. It's stuffing and mashed potatoes and all the good things we had yesterday. Take off my diverter, close the seal. You might need to add more water in there if it reduced down, but let's see if it works out for us. We're live, so we got to take our chances, right? Steam, and I'm going to steam this. This has been sitting out to room temperature, so I'm going to give it 4 minutes. Usually 4 or 5 minutes works to reheat. So then I have my kale here. And I want to show you this, how light and airy the kale is. This is just like, it's so delicately cooked. It stays separate. It's like something that anybody would want to eat. It's not the big mush of overdone kale. It's tender, but it's like, you have an overhead on? Oh, that's helpful. I see it. Okay, so you can see it's like separate, but it's tender. So you could toss this into anything. And this is a recipe that I think, and a technique that I'd really like to share with the Esselstyns because I think they would love it. And I have all of my students that are trying to incorporate that handful of cooked kale with every meal or in between meals just to get their endothelium pumped up and strong. And this method, I created it for one of my students, Jackie, that was going through some horrible times with heart attacks. And she had to dive in and heal herself with the food. She couldn't get surgery. She was refused surgery. Her health was so taxed. So she had to incorporate the greens at every chance she could. So that's why I came up with this recipe for her, because she could make rice, she could make pasta, she could make anything and add this on the side or mix it in, like I'm gonna do with the rice pilaf.
So show them the rice pilaf?
We already did.
Oh.
Okay, so I'm gonna toss this together with the rice pilaf. And this is like my little egg roll bowl now. And I took it all from me, Jerry. There's yours. Now I can steam up some more kale. It's so simple to get this together. And then with this, I'm going to add, I'm big into fermentation. So I teach a fermentation series and I have all of my students fermenting just about everything. And I call it like shortcut to preparing a salad, preparing a rice bowl, because I have all these chopped up veggies that are amplified in nutrition through fermentation, like ruby raw kraut. Now this is another thing, this sauerkraut, this has the myrosinase, the enzyme, the raw cabbage enzyme needed to produce the sulforaphane in the cooked kale. So adding this in, I don't have to pre-chop my kale early. I don't have to use hot mustard. And that's going to add so much flavor and more sulforaphane. When you open up a sauerkraut and you get that knock you out sulfur gas smell, That is protection. That's sulforaphane, and you're going to learn to love that smell because it's giving you everything. It's protecting your body. It protects the plants from the predator, and it protects you cellularly. And then in here, I have what I've named probiotic pickled onions. These are fermented onions. They're just thinly sliced, and I teach water brine fermentation, and I add these to just about everything because the allium family of vegetables are onions, leeks, garlic. They are so cancer protective and delicious. They make everything more delicious and exciting. So I put them on top of everything. And now I'm going to egg roll bowl it up. I'm going to add my hot mustard, and the color of this next to the ruby rock kraut is amazing. And then I have my sweet and sour sauce. And that's it. And then I have a couple chopsticks. Now you could make that with plain rice on the bottom, which is not what I recommend. I always recommend making your rice with a little vegetable broth or a plant-based broth mix when that gets back in stock. But that is my egg roll bowl. You can leave it right there.
Okay.
And then sweet sour sauce, a little extra hot mustard sauce, and then this one over here. Let's see. And then I wanted to talk about what we had on Thanksgiving yesterday and how we're going to be enjoying it today and how we enjoyed it yesterday. But I want to start with the desserts first. So the first thing was I had to make a sweet potato pie, but I couldn't decide. Should I make a pumpkin pie or a sweet potato pie? I mean, this is like, or a chocolate cream pie. We have so many different ones. And there's the pumpkin pie. Oh, and last night we ate so late for dinner that I didn't get to frost my sweet potato pie. So I'm going to do that now while I show you some of the other options I was struggling with, because our community has let's see, the pumpkin pie. There's the picture of the pumpkin pie, pressure cooked cheesecake. Look at this. Our biggest challenge in our community is deciding what not to make on a holiday. Cherry cheese Danish, that's another great one. I was like, oh, that was my dad's favorite and I wanted to make it, but I didn't get to that. Chocolate fondue. And so this one is our cream cheese frosting. And AJ, I'm probably making a fool out of myself because I know you're the pastry chef, and I probably should have used a different tip on this pastry bag. But what I did for Jerry when I made him the slice, I decorated his slice. That's how at least the frosting got made, and it got into the pastry bag last night. It's funny how when you have Thanksgiving and it's just the two of us this year, how I'm like, oh yeah, I'll get to it. No one was like knocking at the door. So we ended up eating really late last night, and I didn't get around to frosting my cake. But my goal with protective diet education is to inspire, but also to remake every comfort food recipe, global recipes. And if I haven't gotten to it yet, we're up to 650 innovative recipes, cooking techniques, and kitchen systems so far. And we're going onto our 8th year teaching protective diet education lessons every week. And it's been so fun. I put out a new recipe every week. And this is how I instructed Jerry to frost his cake.
Move it back toward you a little bit. There you go.
Just spread it with the fork. It's pie, sweet potato pie. He was going nuts. This pie, look at this. That's a sweet potato pie. We should pass it to you, AJ. But anyway,
You can pass it to me.
Okay. But you can't eat it yet. He ate that. I don't know what he's talking about. So then what I wanted to talk about, if I haven't made it yet, send in requests. I know a lot of people from our community are in the audience today. AJ, they were so excited that I was coming on your show. They've been watching all of your shows. You've had so many incredible people. And so they request your favorites that aren't there yet in our recipe vault, but I'm sure I'll get to them. Now that I know that I am going to live a long, healthy life with my protective diet, I'm not as concerned about like panic creating things. I'll get to your recipes if I haven't gotten to a request yet. I have the time. And I wanted to ask you, could I show them, I have this scoop and storage technique.
Yeah, please.
Oh, I forgot to show you what else I made. That would make a lot of sense. Wait a minute, Jerry. I want to show you so many things that I'm losing my mind. Okay, so this is, we make a lot of nice cream on a protective diet. I know you like your blended fruits and stuff, but I came up with this recipe. This is an oat-based ice cream, and it's so creamy, and I've been trying to perfect a recipe that uses no bananas, no fruit. And I finally did it, and I have a pumpkin pie ice cream, and you can see these are really, really hard and frozen, but I store them this way. It's called my scoop and storage technique, and I'd like to show you that, if that's okay. I think it will help a lot of people that get overwhelmed with things like this, and they're like, if I'm gonna eat ice cream, I'm gonna end up eating the whole batch. So this is the way that we pace ourselves. And I'll show you that now. Jerry's going to put that on, help me.
Okay, I took the ice cream wand out and I scraped all the ice cream back into the ice cream maker bowl. And I put this in my freezer for a few minutes while I got my toppings and everything I want to scoop with my ice cream, my frozen container for the storage technique. And if your ice cream comes out and it's not frozen enough, it should be soft enough to scoop. You can put this back into your freezer for about 30 minutes. Don't put it in there longer than 30 minutes because it'll freeze solid and you won't be able to get ice cream out of it. But you can see, get yourself an ice cream scooper, because look at how beautiful these turn out in these perfect scoops. The other tip would be to put frozen ice packs, maybe Jerry, you could get those for me, underneath here to keep these nice and frozen while you're making these perfect scoops. This is the way that I like to store ice cream and make ahead the night before I have a dinner party. So then I can take my scoops out of the freezer about an hour before I want to serve them and put them in the refrigerator. Perfect. Thank you, Jerry. So these I will put underneath here, just like that. That's great. While I'm making these to keep them nice and cold so they don't melt, I want them to be in perfect scoops, just like that, especially if I'm serving them for a party. I love this ice cream. Did I mention that it's banana free? This recipe is part of Protective Diet Education, Protective Diet's premium programming, and will one day be in Protective Diet cookbooks. But until then, it's part of our application program. Scooping all of these out. And I usually get 9 scoops, but you can see this is frozen to the bottom a little bit. This might take a few minutes to soften up so that I can get it into nice scoops. The way to get a perfect scoop is to scoop it, pack it into the scooper, let it go, and then take that not so rounded side and put it into the bottom of the scooper and keep scooping. My mom used to work for Andy's Candies, and she taught me how to scoop a perfect scoop. She'd probably laugh at me now when she sees this video because it's probably not as perfect as her scoops were for all of her 4 kids and my dad for our ice cream sundaes. And here I am celebrating ice cream again with a protective diet. Love this recipe. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do, and look forward to offshoots of this recipe coming up, like strawberry cheesecake ice cream. I have a whole bunch of different recipes that are going to be spin-offs of this ice cream recipe. I make my last scoop here. I'm getting an extra scoop out of this deal, Jerry.
That's great.
Maybe I'll just scoop this scoop straight into my bowl. And I like to top mine with absolutely nothing. I think this vanilla ice cream is perfect for the vanilla purist. But if you want to get into toppings, we have our toasted oats that adds a nice crunch. These are really simple toppings tonight. Frozen cherries that are defrosted. You could make a banana split using the protective diet chocolate fondue recipe. You could use the macerated strawberries, all of these sugar-free and plant-based, of course, on a protective diet. I hope you enjoy this recipe as much as Jerry and I have been. And I'm gonna get these into the freezer before they melt. And then each night, when we want to have an ice cream, these will freeze solid where I can actually pick them up with my fingers really easily, no melting. And then I put them into my dish and I put this in the refrigerator about an hour before I'm going to eat it. So maybe at the start of dinner, you could defrost your ice creams in the refrigerator for a perfect texture every night on a protective diet. One more tip, I almost forgot, a really important tip. If you have a hot kitchen, if you're using your oven or you used your oven earlier in the day, I suggest taking your ice cream maker and moving it to another room. Do this in your dining room or in your bedroom or your office or even your bathroom if it's farther away. Anywhere you have an outlet. I put it outside on cooler days so that it freezes up fast. But the one big ice cream fail is plugging in your ice cream maker when you've got something going in the oven. Your ice cream is never going to freeze because your kitchen's heating up. You want to keep this cool. The whole point is to freeze it.
All right. So one of the benefits of that scoop and storage technique, it really helps me to pace myself when it comes to desserts and treats and baked goods. We have a lot of ice cream flavors, and Butterfinger is the first one that I want to show you. So I've spent a lot of times recreating our favorite foods. There's the Butterfinger, and we don't use any nuts, no peanut butter, I promise you, is in there. Not the way that it slimmed me down to get rid of those saturated fats. Thin Mint, we have strawberry cheesecake. I couldn't live without that flavor. Mint chocolate chip. And then there was the ice cream sandwich was born. And that was my favorite dessert treat as a child. And I finally have it back in my life. And frozen yogurt, that's always a great one too. And this technique works great for things like banana bread. So when I make a banana bread that's actually pressure cooked banana bread. I slice it and I wrap it and I freeze it. So then I pace myself by taking a couple slices out in the morning to have as our dessert with our dinner. Because we day fast, we eat everything all at once. But when I was eating multiple meals a day, I was avoiding the snacks. And I would eat 3 big meals a day. And to keep myself from going back and eating more banana bread, eating a little snack here and there, and then ruining my appetite for my next meal, because that's what I'm all about, is sitting down hungry so that it's very healthy food is very exciting to me. I wrap them and freeze them, and then I have to really think about it. Like, I can't just go grab a frozen piece of cake or a frozen ice cream ball. You saw how frozen those were. So before dinner, I'll put them, before we sit down to eat, I'll put them in the refrigerator to defrost, or when I start to make dinner, and they're like this perfect texture. So that's just a tip for anyone that's eating plant-based ice creams and things like that. Sometimes we get a little overzealous when we're making them in the food processor or in the blender, and they end up like this huge amount. Well, you can scoop them and store them, and then take one out before you want to have it, like an hour to 2 hours, put it in the fridge to defrost. So then we have the Thanksgiving leftovers. They're done now. I'm going to quick release. And the first item that I made for Thanksgiving was country wheat stuffing muffins. You can make them with cornbread or with wheat. We prefer the wheat because that's what I grew up with. And then we had onion and herb smashed potatoes. You can imagine what's in there. Onions and herbs. And then we had mushroom gravy. This is all inside this Hungry Man deal. Caramelized Brussels sprouts. And I made those with sugar-free apple butter that we make in our slow cooker. And we had cream corn and dry steamed kale, of course. And whenever I add dry steamed kale to a meal, that's the first thing I make. When I walk into the kitchen, I make the dry steamed kale. Then I start making my dinner or whatever meal you're having, because that can sit, it can hang out. It's okay if it's room temperature when you go to use it. You could make it hours before you make your meal. It's fine. So that's the first thing that I prepared on Thanksgiving. And we have, here is all of our Thanksgiving leftovers. Not all of them. We still have a lot of them in the refrigerator because we had so many different things to eat. I had to have room for ice cream and pie. So here is the gravy, which I put some gravy in the bottom of this just to keep it nice and moist. But you can see my leftovers are like, they're very moist. That is the goal with this steam reheat technique. I have my mashed potatoes, and here's my stuffing muffin. These are so much fun. And I like to just break them up and then put the gravy on top. And then I have my Thanksgiving rice pilaf, which is so much better as a sushi roll, or no, we have a sushi roll bowl. That's my shortcut to making sushi, but egg roll bowl. And then I have my dry steamed kale in here, and look at it. It still has life. It still stays separate with this cooking technique. And my corn, and then I can put my gravy on top. And we also have a gravy that is mushroom free that's called basic brown gravy, and it's really easy and quick to come together and taste just like real deal gravy. So then I have, we also, with our Thanksgiving dinner, we had what I like to call a finger salad, which is really a crudité. We don't have a photo of that, sorry, it's gone. It's like a crudité or a vegetable platter, but I like to, instead of making salads, which sometimes are overwhelming to some people, I love salads, I love chopped salads, I like salads with hot starches in the winter time because then I stay warm. But I put them actually on top of hot starches, hot rice or hot potatoes, so that I can still eat raw vegetables and not be cold all the time. But the salad we had was with French onion dip, and it's a tofu based dip, and it's made, and then we just, you know, eat it as a starter. So then we got our salad in. So I want to share that. And then we have some beverages I wanted to show you. So you could show them the picture of the beverages, and then I'm going to show them how to make them. So those are the beverages. We have flower chai, which is a blend of hibiscus and butterfly pea flowers. And I buy all of my beverages. I buy all of my teas loose, because then I can save money and improve food quality by buying them in organic form. They come in pound bags, and then I put them in little canisters here so that they're handy for me to brew up every day. And I like to drink different herbal beverages. I'll tell you what these are in a second, so that I can constantly be getting protection throughout my system. Anthocyanin, that's an incredible protective phytochemical that is actually internal sunscreen. So if we drink this while we go in the sun, we are reducing the oxidative stress from the sun. Anytime we're taking in antioxidants, especially in a caloric-free form, our body can defend itself during the day. And whether we're day fasting or we stop snacks or whatever we're doing, we can have these beverages. But so hibiscus flowers, I'm sure many of you have heard of. They're just a dried flower, and they make that beautiful red color. And then butterfly pea flowers. These come from Thailand, and they're grown wild and hand harvested, and they make the water blue. In combination, you'll get a purple color, or if you just brew, they taste like nothing, but the hibiscus has a lemony tang. And what I do is I brew it in a jar like this, concentrated, and then I pour it through a strainer into a pitcher with water, like this. Can you see this one here? Okay, this one is what I call African red. So I like to give my herbal beverages names in our community and create them into recipes so they don't get lost in our program and so that people get into making them. And this one is these two herbs. They're actually parts of a bush from Africa, and they're harvested organic, and it's honey bush and rooibos, which many people have heard of. Rooibos tea is a red tea that has those anthocyanins in it, and it's very protective. And both of these bushes are being studied for their anti-cancer, anti-disease, anti-inflammatory effects. I've read about them in several pharmaceutical studies. And so then add them to cold water. And this one is actually, I made green tea. I buy loose green tea and loose spearmint. And I brewed it the same way and poured it over water, concentrated and poured it over water. So the reason that I want more exciting beverages than just water is for their protection, also for their eye appeal, because it is very, very common that thirst can cause us to eat or feel hungry when we aren't. We're thirsty and our body signals us to eat. And I was always guilty of reaching for fruit. And I would eat all of this fruit in between my meals when all I really needed was a beverage break. I needed a drink. So I don't normally make 3 of these at the same time unless I'm having friends over. But you can see how eye appealing this is. And what I like to do with them and what I recommend for people that have kids to get them to drink totally sugar-free beverages like this, I recommend that they either repurpose bottles. This one's actually from 2013. So I don't buy any beverages anymore, but this was, I think, moved here from Chicago with us. But I like to repurpose bottles, juice bottles, or you can buy bottles like the ones you see next to me here. And I fill them up and I put them in my refrigerator in the summertime when it's hot. And on the top shelf under that refrigerator light, they light up and they look so appealing, so beautiful.
There's a question, do they need to be refrigerated?
You should refrigerate them. I can leave a pitcher out like this, room temperature, for a couple days and it's fine. Oh, good. I'm so glad you said that. So one of the very important things is when you're brewing these concentrates of the hibiscus or the rooibos or tea, strain them out. Do not store your tea with the flower buds in there. They will go rancid in a very short period of time, like within like 2 to 3 days, they will get slimy. So make sure you strain them, and then you can put them into jars or bottles or however you want to store them. And it's just going to get you drinking more. And I think that is the secret to the eating of the fruit between meals. For me, it was. and it is for a lot of people in our community. If we stay hydrated, we're not going to have as much cravings. On a protective diet, one of the first things I did was I cut out all the food additives that were driving me back into the kitchen. All the MSG, it's hidden in all of our foods and code names like natural flavor and citric acid, and they all cause us cravings when they withdraw out of our system. We need more of them, just like sugar, just like opioids, just like anything that we're hooked on. So then we go back in the kitchen searching for more food and we're not really hungry. So cutting out the additives, staying hydrated. And also if you have challenges where you are, I teach self-awareness training where we are always paying attention to ourselves, because I find that when I tried stopping the snacks between the meals, I was always back in this kitchen. I was like, oh, you know, like and all I really needed, because I work from home, was a break from the computer, a break from work, or I was cold, or sometimes when I would be disappointed, I would get triggered where I was stressed, and sometimes it was just sadness or loneliness in the evening, and then I would want something to eat. So I have these to go for. Just change your ritual to something that's caloric-free or non-food related, and that's what I teach. Most of the time it's because I'm cold that I get hungry. I want comfort and a sweater and slippers work. But pretty much it. Oh, and I wanted to mention that we, at the beginning of COVID, or when it was still called Corona, I think, when we were in shelter in place in March here in California, we offered, because we got so many emails about our program that people wanted to start cooking healthier, we offered a COVID relief discount of 80% off of enrollment, which was like phenomenal. We rolled it back to our prices after our first year of teaching. And we rolled it back 80% from $500 for enrollment to $100 for enrollment. And so far since March, I'm really proud to say that we have discounted our program $47,200 so far. That many people took advantage of our discount, and we're still offering it because we're still going through the same thing. I know everyone's having hard times now and they're stuck at home. What better time to learn to cook and apply a whole food plant-based diet and improve your health, your immune system. It's so important right now. But we also have 123 free recipes and hundreds of free videos and classes, PDEd classes that we thought were very important public service announcements, and we made them free. There's one in particular that is day one on a protective diet. If you want to take a peek in and see how to navigate this, we use the recipes to guide us. You just pick out recipes and you start cooking them, and you're on a protective diet. And so I wanted to mention that in case anyone's interested in joining our community. We have a lot of success stories coming out of COVID relief. One in particular that comes to mind, Wendy, she's turned into a kitchen wizard. I've turned them into kitchen wizards where they're using my techniques and my tips, my pro tips, and we take them shopping. We have so many different aspects of our program that are lifestyle related. When I was faced with cancer, I totally clean up all of my lifestyle products, my laundry detergent, and my deodorant. We call it pit paste. My toothpaste, it's a whitening toothpaste that I've never had one work better. So these are all original recipes because I cut out all of the chemical ingredients. Even in natural, homemade, a lot of these products, they still include ingredients that are carcinogenic. So I remade them, and they are so effective. Our whole community is using the laundry detergent and saving. It's 1 cent per load. It's mind-blowing, and it's so effective and powerful, and it uses just 2 simple household ingredients that aren't toxic. But we have mouthwash, we have breath fresheners, we have gum, all natural protective gum. We have different beauty regimens and treatments, face masks. I share all of that in my programming to really get people through a detox and living holistically, where they are not taking in or applying any threats, because it's not what we add to our diet to heal our body. It's what we remove to give our body and all of our protective microbes a chance to thrive, to heal, to do cellular recycling, to promote autophagy. Are there any questions, AJ? I just keep talking.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on all day.
I saw one question earlier, the feed, it disappears from, I wrote it down from Sherry. She said, do you still use erythritol and stevia as your sweetener? Dr. Greger said they are not good for the microbiome.
That actually, I heard the direct opposite about the erythritol. The stevia, I no longer use it because it's very bitter. And it's, for some people, they're using the stevia to, I only have a couple recipes that use stevia and they're in their free recipes. After I recreated recipes using the erythritol, which has been studied since the 1800s, and it absorbs directly into the system, and it is digested. It's not something that is a sugar alcohol that causes you to eliminate, like xylitol and those. I do include it in some of the recipes in small amounts to cut the bitterness of chocolate, to cut the tangy sourness of some of the recipes that use lemon or vinegar balance in salad dressings, but not in, I don't use the stevia myself personally anymore for anything. Oh, I use it in my toothpaste to sweeten up my toothpaste, but that's really it.
Great. And Marina says, what if you don't have an Instant Pot? Can you still dry steam kale?
Yes, you could do that on the stovetop for sure. Do the same method where you're using a steamer basket for sure. The timing is going to be, you're going to have to develop your own schedule on the timing on that. And you might really want to consider putting an Instant Pot on your wish list, because AJ, come on here, it's magical. I called it the life changer when I first started out with a Secura. I think when you came to my house, I had a Secura and you were like, what is that thing? And I'm like, it's my pressure cooker. Like, I didn't know about Instant Pot at the time. And I think Instant Pot was just making its big like debut then. And then I switched to Instant Pot because it's got so many great features on it. I use that time delay on there all the time, where I set up a soup, or I set up my rice or my beans in one, my rice in the other, and we go out for the day and we come home and it's like beep, and it goes off right when we come home for the day. I think it's one of the most fantastic pieces of equipment. But my recipes, I write them both ways when possible. So for like the Thanksgiving rice pilaf, I wrote a stovetop recipe and an Instant Pot recipe. And the reason that I do that is because times like the holiday, you probably already got mashed potatoes in your Instant Pot, and I'm not expecting anyone to have two, although they do multiply in most people's kitchens. I really think that you should have the option on holidays to be able to cook dishes on the stove, dishes in the oven, a dish in the Instant Pot, so that you can have all your kitchen features going and have it all come out hot at the same time. So I do write a lot of my recipes both ways, but the Instant Pot, like treating.
Last question, when will your cookbook come out?
Oh, my cookbook. Oh, that's a great question. So there's a lot of rhyme and reason behind my recipes. And I need to write a guidebook to protective diet education, but it keeps growing our practice. And that has delayed things. I have 13 cookbooks right now. They're all on different subjects. There's a fermentation cookbook. There is a plant diversity cookbook. There is a holidays. There's oil-free grilling. There's PD desserts. There is basically every subject matter, and I've divided them out, but I need the guidebook to help you understand the why we're using this instead of that. Also, having a digital display cookbook, because when you enroll in Protective Diet Education, you gain access to over 600 recipes day one in 1 second. And with a digital cookbook, I have hundreds of people testing my recipes on a daily basis for me, giving me feedback. And I test my recipes in this test kitchen hundreds of times before I publish them, but it's different when a home user is using it. And it's such great feedback that when my cookbooks come out, they're going to be perfection. But also, I do a lot of videos, like you saw that ice cream storage technique. I can't put that in a cookbook. I can't describe how to dry brown onions. I can't describe how to keep an herb box so that your herb box stay fresh, your herbs stay fresh for 2 to 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, as long as you change that towel out every week. But on our website, at the bottom of the website, these are all free videos and free techniques. There's an herb box storage video on the bottom of every web page of protectivediet.com. Watch that video, because that's going to save you money, save you time, and you're always going to have these fresh protective herbs on hand. And then you're going to be like, oh, that's why she put cilantro or parsley or chives or all these things in these recipes, because they're handy. She doesn't have to run out and get them. Our community, everybody's got an herb box, and everybody is just loving the kitchen systems. My goal is to make them look like the kitchen wizard and have all of these things going. And I want them to be the healthiest person that in their whole family, that all of their friends know. I want them walking billboards. They deserve the credit, especially if you're hanging out in a plant-based community like this and you're not producing results, you deserve them. So I want to give everybody the tools so that they can be just like me, creating dinners that are outstanding. One of the reviews we get quite often is that the whole family's on board with a protective diet. It's not just mommy's diet, because the foods have the eye appeal. And it takes about 30 days for the taste buds to reprogram and things to be not so flat because they're fat-free. But it comes around, and then your tongue lights up and you're like, this is great. I could eat this way the rest of my life. What's the recipe of the week? What's next? So that's how we keep it exciting. But the cookbook thing, it's so challenging for me to write the recipes without the techniques and the methods. So that's what's in Protective Diet Education. That's, oh, and check out the dry browning video. If you're water sauteing, learn how to dry brown, because I'm a foodie. I love food that is loaded with flavor. And so the browning techniques, I've had chefs that said to me, oh my gosh, this caramelizes the onions faster than if I used oil. And it gets them a deep golden brown. And use that dry browning technique. Check out that video on the bottom of the web page. Do you have any more questions? I'm sorry.
No, that's it. Thank you so much. And congratulations on your recovery. That's just an amazing story in itself.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific time, when my guest is an obesity special. Her name is Dr. Richa Mittal. And happy holidays, everyone. Thanks again, Julie. Great to see you.
Thank you. Take care, AJ.